All right, in that case, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, including the total for the extra expenditure list is $20,709.94.
Second.
Keel,
Aye.
Levy,
Aye.
Betts, Sheet.
Aye. We have no presentations this evening. At this time, if there's anybody that would like to, any citizen that would like to address the council to raise an issue or a concern on anything that is not on the agenda, please state your name and your address, please. And is the mic on?
Okay. Okay. My name is Elizabeth Berger, and I live on Road 29 in the county. And I would like to address respect and ethics today again, because we had it last week, or the last meeting out in the workshop, and it was discussed in length. And here we are sitting last time, listening to an approval of, or a presentation by the city manager towards the airport manager to be named as project manager for striping the runway. And Mr. Dougherty said the state of Colorado requires that a property manager be named for this project. Since I don't really love to spend all the time watching construction at the airport, and so as Russell is out there, and so I request that you name Russ Mackin as manager, as project manager for this grant. I don't know, I think this is arrogant, ignorant, stupid, disrespectful, or just not watching the words. Here we were sitting out there discussing ethics, coming in here, okay, Mr. Russ does not get the job as project manager because of his qualifications. He gets it because Mr. Dougherty doesn't want to be out there at the airport watching construction. Well, first of all, it's my strong belief that project managing for, I think, 200 to 300,000, or if it's the larger project for 1.5 million, requires more than watching construction. Second, I think as city manager, being a servant to the community and knowing what managing might mean, it should be more than watching construction, and I don't want to do it, to be out there. So I ask that Russ Mackin is named as project manager. I think we all need to be more respectful to each other, to keep, as Mr. Dougherty said in the newspaper article, that little paradise a paradise, because it's the people who make it that way. The natural respect the citizens here have for each other, and I think we have to bring that back. Thank you for your attention.
I would tell you, Elizabeth, contrary to what it may have come off as sounding, Mr. Dougherty has great respect for Mr. Machin. He's been out at the airport for a long time. He does a wonderful job. And though it may be on the surface, it perhaps sounded as though it were flip or that I don't like to do it, so Russ gets to do it. Russ gets to do it because he's the most qualified person to do it, and Mr. Dougherty knows that. So, but thank you for reminding us just to think about those things.
I think that's important to think.
Absolutely. Would you like to speak? Be sure your mic is on. It should turn green.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Piper Green of County Road P 28264, Dolores, Colorado. Tonight I will be talking about how the government is wanting to reintroduce wolves to Colorado. The ballot is in November. That gives you 9 months to choose to vote yes or no. Here are some reasons to vote yes and to vote no. My first reason for no is because they will kill our livestock and wildlife. Also, that there are 4.9 million people on the Denver side of the Rocky Mountains if they vote yes, and 563,000 people on the western slope vote no. Who do you think will win? Here's your answer, the Denver side. Also, the wolves are protected by the government, so you can't shoot them if they attack you. Finally, the government already put some endangered species in Colorado. So if we put gray wolves in Colorado, they will kill all the endangered species here. Reasons for yes are, we can let them come into Colorado by natural migration. They can also be part of how to stop the chronic waste disease found in deer, elk, and moose. In conclusion, I vote no to reintroducing wolves. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you do that for a class project?
Yeah.
You did a nice job. Is there anybody else that would like to address council at this time? Okay. Oh.
Hi, Becky Levy, Executive Director of the Cortez Cultural Center, and I handed out some invitations to you all, and also wanted to invite the public to a fun networking evening next Tuesday, which is March 3rd from 5 to 7:30 at the Cultural Center. And the event is actually being hosted by ourselves, the Chamber of Commerce, and Cortez Rural Academy for Tourism, which is an office, which is a program put on by the state of Colorado's tourism office, and they're going to be hosting 6 community workshops and training opportunities in Montezuma County to help enhance and elevate our tourism industry. And the first one is just going to be this fun networking evening where we want to get together and kind of hear what people think about the community, what they like, what our strengths and weaknesses are, and what kind of opportunities and visions we might have for a tourist economy into the future, and this is looking long-term. Then after the series of studio work sessions, which we'll publish and invite people to come to, those are going to be half-day workshops, and upon finishing the community, hopefully if it has a strategic vision, as a group, we can apply for tourism grant funding up to $10,000 to help actually actuate whatever vision it is that we all come up with. So I'm not addressing it very well. As you know, I don't speak well already in public. But anyways, an example of some of the classes will be community-based tourism and visitor readiness, adventure tourism and bicycle tourism, sustainable tourism, and then tourism marketing and branding. And they'll have different experts coming to us. So it's a great opportunity to have this kind of training and outreach so far away from the Front Range where most of these work sessions are normally held. So again, if anybody's interested, they can contact me or Rocky Moss with the Chamber of Commerce, and hopefully you guys can come to the kickoff event, which is next Tuesday, starting at 5 o'clock and it ends at 7:30, and there's going to be a fun kind of visioning exercise as well as a raffle, and there'll be food and beverage too for free. So
Is Mesa Verde Country participating in this?
yes, Mesa Verde, thank you for asking that. Yes, Mesa Verde Country is definitely participating in this, and they wrote a wonderful letter of support, and so they're one of our partners in this. It's just, we didn't want to add to Kelly's workload because she's got a whole lot going on, and this is something that we hope we can all come together as a community and kind of come up with some neat ideas. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
It sounds like a wonderful opportunity. If there are people here tonight that are concerned about economic development,
Yeah.
tourism is one of the drivers in this community. So if you have time, you might want to mark the 3rd and the 4th on your calendar and participate.
Oh, yeah, and then aside from the networking opportunities, I forgot to mention too that the people from the State Tourism Office will be there to talk about different funding possibilities, grants, and also they have marketing matching dollars to help bolster tourism advertising. So that's something people can find out about as well. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Do you
Thanks
know
for
what
sharing.
they're raffling?
No, well, I do have some prizes, which I just got today, but they're not, I know the people from the state are bringing some things down, but we've got a gift basket that was donated by Mesa Verde Country that's got like beans and hot sauce, but I think the tourism office has got some like really nice stuff. I just can't remember that, like, they do all the planning for it. We do the invites, and we do the, oh gosh, my time's up. We do the, try to do the research so that they have information to talk to about trends and analysis and projections. And if I find out though what the raffle is, I'll email you guys.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll put it on our website and Facebook too, so, good point.
Thanks, Becky.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Anybody else that would like to address council?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. My name is Alan Mays, live out at Lewis, County Road 21. I want to take the opportunity to follow up with two things. Elizabeth Berger's comment on respect and ethical comments. I do think that I want to say that while it wasn't the best presentation, I think it was a good presentation that Rebecca just gave. But I do want to say, too, that I think that if the city hasn't already started doing some training, and if they did, I think it's working. There were no swear words in that presentation, and I'm glad that that's taking place. There are some young people here tonight, and I think that's very important. So, if this is part of the council's training to staff and committees, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. We have 2 public hearings this evening. Both of them are quasi-judicial items. The first is a change in location of a hotel and restaurant liquor license for Me Mexico. The council will be considering approving change of location for this business from their current location on Broadway to the old Jack and Janelle's site, which is on East Main Street. I was just going to say, I would just like to remind City Council that in your capacity with this particular item, you are sitting as a quasi-judicial body, and the City Council is restricted to finding of facts on evidence presented to them at this hearing. No member of City Council should receive or solicit comments from any persons regarding a matter pending before the City Council prior to this formal hearing itself. And if anybody has had any contact on this matter, at this time, would you please advise council and consider recusing yourself? So has anybody had conversations outside of this moment in time that they feel they need to share?
I do not.
Okay.
Folks, if I could, there's a different set of rules for this type of liquor hearing, and they are required by the Colorado Liquor Code. And council would be, if they move to approve this change of location, be following the liquor code as set forth in 44-3-301. And I'll get to show off my Latin here at SEC and the following paragraphs, which talk about how you conduct one of these hearings. This is a public hearing, and there are certain people who can speak, and they first must be sworn in because this is a quasi-judicial hearing. It's like going to court, so we swear you in. Parties in interest may speak at a change of premises hearing, and parties at interest means the applicant an adult resident of the neighborhood under consideration. The neighborhood in our liquor hearings has been set as the city of Cortez. The owner or manager of a business located in the neighborhood under consideration, and/or the principal or representative of any school located within 500 feet of the premises for which the issuance of the license pursuant to CRS 44.3.3091 is under consideration. There is no distance requirement for hotel and restaurant liquor licenses, but the revised statutes still allow the school representative to speak. Each party in interest will have an ample opportunity to speak and in turn to cross-examine the other witnesses if desired. Council may limit the testimony of witnesses in order to prevent repetitive and cumulative evidence or examination. Testimony from the persons in interest and cross-examination is limited to council may consider testimony concerning the reasonable requirements of the neighborhood, the desires of the adult inhabitants of the neighborhood. For these type of hearings, council may not consider testimony concerning being against a license on religious grounds or being against a license because of social, financial, or other health problems caused by alcohol. These guidelines are what is set forth at the, what we call it, the Part 3 of the Liquor Code, 44.3.301 et sec. And so these are not rules of the city, these are rules of the state. And so thank you.
All right. The next step in this process is staff presentation.
Please raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony that you give before this council shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good evening, Council. This report is concerning the granting of a change in location on a hotel and restaurant liquor for Mia Mexico. Mia Mexico Restaurant, Inc., doing business as Mia Mexico, is currently located at 550 South Broadway and has applied to relocate to 801 East Main Street, Cortez. I have been duly appointed and directed by the Cortez City Council, Montezuma County, and the state of Colorado to investigate the above application and report as following. We've contacted the City of Cortez Planning and Zoning Office and spoke with Neva Conley. Neva indicated that the zoning regulations do allow a retail liquor license as permitted use, according to the Schedule Land Use Code, Section 3.05A. Public notice was given by posting the proper sign on February 5th, 2020 on the property described in the application. A photo of the public notice is attached to this report. Required notices were published in the Journal on February 7th, 2020. There are several other businesses that have the same type of liquor license in the area. A poll of the surrounding neighborhoods and businesses within the neighborhood was taken to obtain an opinion on granting this liquor license as applied for by the applicants. All persons contacted were advised of the time and place of the public hearing and were asked, do you have an opinion on this liquor license being granted? The following are the results of that poll. 33 were in favor of granting the license, 0 were against granting the license. The location applies with Colorado Liquor Code rules and regulations. The location does not create any known public safety issues or endanger public health. A copy of the report was delivered to the applicants on February 21st, 2020.
Council, anybody have any questions of Andy?
I do not.
No questions.
I have a couple, if I could, please. Chief Brock, did you get petitions signed, or one of your employees get these petitions signed?
Yes, we have, well, I said 33. We have 33.
And do you have the original petitions with you?
I do.
And would you be seeking to introduce these into as part of the record for the consideration of granting or denying this change of premise?
Yes, I would.
Could you please hand those to the clerk? And council, we'd ask that you accept these as evidence of them to meet the needs of the neighborhood and the desires of the inhabitants. That's all I have.
I think if I remember looking through that, there were 2 signatures that were county on that. Did they actually have a business in the city, or does it make any difference on these
And
petitions?
I'm not sure which ones you're referring to. I'd have to look them up.
Yeah, I can't remember the names on that. Mike, there isn't a particular number of people whose signatures you have to get, or is there?
No, ma'am. The reason I think we get the petitions is so to have some sort of information to present to council as to what the inhabitants of the neighborhood, if you will, think about this liquor license and the process. There's no requirement as numbers. The 2, if there's 2 who have a county address and they don't indicate they own, how do I say this, own a business or manage a business in the city, you still have 28 who want to have, believe this is approved. So I would say you accept the petitions as evidence of the requirements of the neighborhood and the wishes of the inhabitants.
Okay. All right, at this time then, we'll open it up to public testimony. I would like to remind you that you will be sworn in tonight. And
Ma'am, we need the applicant to present if they're here and they want to, please.
Are they here this evening?
I don't see them in the audience tonight.
I didn't think I saw them.
They may not
but-
have been able to make it.
Okay. All right. So I would just like to remind you that if you are wishing to come and share something with council, that you will be asked for your address. You have to have a residence. You have to be a resident of Cortez or own or manage a business within the city limits. Otherwise, you're not part of the neighborhood. So at this time, is there anybody that would like to provide testimony for council? Sure.
At the microphone,
Can you come to the mic?
it still has the state.
Right here? I wanted to know why they wanted to move it from Broadway, where personally I think this would go...
Ma'am,
Yes.
you need to state your name and
Oh,
your
I'm
address.
sorry, and swear in, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, my name is Kayleen Schooley. I live at 616 Chamblee, here in Cortez, Colorado.
And could you swear her in, please, Linda?
Yep. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony that you will give before this council shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am. I just had a question for the individuals that had the business and applied for the license, or our council here. Why did they want to move from Broadway to Main Street in the first place? Does anybody know?
Yes,
Do they
ma'am.
feel that Broadway is...
Could you let her answer, ma'am,
Yes,
please?
yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
I'm sorry, honey, go ahead.
They're moving from Broadway to Main Street as they purchased the building on Main Street, and they're leasing the building on Broadway. That's why they're
Oh,
moving.
I see. Okay, well, this would probably come into the workshop with some ideas for the community and our tourism and things like that, but maybe Broadway needs to be built up a little bit more. As far as the traffic coming in and out and off of Main Street, it's hard to read the signs on Main Street with the traffic, especially if the trucks are going through Main Street. I think maybe they could be sidewinded around somehow, I don't know. But I'd be interested to know, I mean, I don't know, there's a lot of liquor already on Main Street. That's,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Does council have any questions for the witness?
I do not.
All right, would anybody else like to address council? Okay. Close the public testimony part of the hearing. At this time, does council have any questions, or does staff have any questions?
No question.
And
I
since
have
the
none.
applicant is not here, all right, in that case, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to change the location of hotel and restaurant liquor license for Me Mexico from 550 South Broadway to 801 East Main Street in Cortez.
I second that.
And this would be pursuant, I'm going to ask a question here, and your motion would include pursuant to the Colorado Liquor Code at 44-3-301 at sec?
Yes.
Second
Great,
that.
thank you, ma'am.
Keel?
Aye. If you second, I
Betts?
didn't hear it.
Betts?
Aye.
Levy?
Aye.
Cheek?
Aye. Right. All right, the next quasi-judicial item that we're going to be taking up is the retail marijuana license for New View Pharma LLC. And again, I would like to remind City Council that you are sitting as a quasi-judicial body, and you are restricted to making its findings of facts and evidence presented to you at this hearing. No member of the City Council should receive or solicit comments from any persons regarding this matter prior to council in the formal hearing itself. And if anybody has, would you please speak up at this point?
Ma'am, in speaking with the applicant before the hearing or before the meeting, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, they would be agreeing to go with council's wishes if council wished to continue this hearing to the next meeting, which I think is the 6th of March.
It's the 10th of March, isn't it? The next meeting is the 10th of March.
The 12th, I'm sorry.
The 10th.
The 10th, okay. I can't read
That's
a calendar. And so it would be the 10th of March. I apologize for the misinformation. And their attorney, their counsel, Mr. Whitehair, is going to explain.
Done.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Greg Whitehair, and I am the attorney, one of the attorneys helping represent New View Pharma in its application for a retail marijuana establishment license here in Cortez. We do understand that there's sincere concern tonight.
Stop just a minute. I'm sorry. Mike, does he need to give us his address?
Pardon?
Does he need to give us his address?
Well, he's the attorney for New View, and
I
so
know.
I think we're okay with that. He's the attorney for New View.
All right. We just want to be sure we're doing this by the record.
I really appreciate it, and I would not be giving interested local testimony.
No, we just want to be sure we're doing this the way we're supposed to.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand there's sincere concern because of missing 2 of your members, because there's a recusal, and the sense that the remainder are feeling it's not quite fair, or whatever the concern is.
We want to be sure that it's fair to you, so that when you leave this council chambers, whenever that evening is, that you feel that you have gotten a fair hearing, because we'd like to lay this to rest here.
Thank you, and that was well communicated to me by Mr. Green. You can imagine our frustration. I know you share the same. No one expected a sewer to break tonight or travel. I would like to introduce a couple of people just that were here, and then I am going to defer to the council's how they wish to proceed. But I would like to make sure my co-counsel, Meredith Callan and Kelly McCabe, are also on the record and here. And then my client, Dr. Malik Hassan, a retired neurosurgeon who has been running healthcare businesses for his entire adult life and has found himself very excited with the opportunities presented by the science of cannabis. And he came here for 2 reasons. One, to answer any questions you have. We know that character evidence is, thankfully, and we appreciate it, not before you. On the other hand, he wants you to see a face and a support for the business opportunity that he wants to bring to Cortez, and be in a position to show he's not a distant landlord who doesn't understand the cannabis business. I won't testify on his behalf more than to say he has been instrumental in getting institution from the state to do huge amounts of research in cannabis for safety, efficacy, value for all kinds of illnesses and concerns. So there's a lot more here than just trying to open up a store. It is a challenge to travel. I won't say his age, to be kind and thoughtful, but to say we want to be we would love to proceed tonight, but we understand that your feeling is you give a more full, fair hearing opportunity if more of your members were able to participate. We have witnesses, I have exhibits. I just want to make the record that we're ready, willing, and able to proceed today, but I also understand how councils work. We will defer to your decision tonight. I will say I'm going to need to double check. Ms. Callan and I are also doing a presentation in Phoenix the day before the next meeting, and I know there's a boutique flight, but I don't know that I can get on it. So we would have to check on that before I would be in a position to say you can count on us, and then we could make Dr. Hassan available by phone if any council members had any questions, just to avoid the sort of constant travel.
Would it be fair to make the motion if we were to continue it to the next available meeting in March for your calendar?
Yes, with the idea the 10th may work, but it may well need to be the 24th.
Is
And
that okay
I'm
with-
also sensitive to that is, starts to get into spring break for other people.
So if council wanted to make a motion to continue this hearing, public hearing, quasi-judicial hearing to the March meeting, one of the March meeting dates contingent upon meeting everybody's calendar and schedule the first or the second meeting, I think we could do that.
Do we need to clarify which meeting that would be?
No, because I think to be arranged, and we'll put it on the agenda.
Well, I will move quickly to determine whether I can make it. So we're not going to, we'll know in the next day or two.
Sure. That's agreeable.
I agree.
So I need a motion to continue.
May I have a motion? Unless there are other questions, council members, can I have a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I make the motion to put a continuance on this, either to the first or the second meeting in March.
I second that.
Levy,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
You
Betts,
can just abstain. If you want to abstain for your other.
all right, and Sheik.
Aye. Okay, so
Thank you.
did Dr. Hassan want to speak while he's here tonight, or?
Do you mind?
No?
And folks, can I just go release my witnesses while the doctor's?
Yes.
Your Honor, it would be a hypocrisy for me to say it's a pleasure to be here after flying in that small plane where I couldn't even stand or sit properly, but that was my problem. I should be smaller. And but I just wanted to give you a flavor of, because if I'm going to be a businessman here, you are the most important people in town. I want to give a flavor why I will be a good addition to the citizenry of this city and of this town. I was, believe it or not, I was born in Delhi, and because of the partition, my family had to run for their lives from Delhi to Pakistan, and for a considerable period of time, I lived in a refugee camp. And no education, nothing, because my father was a very wealthy landowner, feudal lord. There is no marketable skills for a feudal lord. Nobody's looking to hire them. So it was a very difficult time, and that is the time where I realized that the way out of this hole is education. So I focused on my education, and I got out of that hole. Now, the interesting thing is I was helped by a lot of people to get out of that hole. I wish I can say I did it all by myself. In fact, I wonder even if 2 or 3 of those people who extended the helping hand had not extended it, I would still be in a hole. So in that respect, I consider myself very blessed. I consider myself as a as somebody who owes a lot to the society in general. And then I went to medical school. I went to UK for my neurology. I graduated from the medical school, I think I was 20 years old. And I went to National Hospital for Neurology in London for neurology. It's also the Institute of Neurology. It's the premier place for neurology. And I got qualifications from there, went back to Pakistan, tried to work there, was very successful, not so much in practice as in real estate. And the reason I was successful was not because I was a genius. The reason I was successful was I had good patrons and good people who are willing to, help me and root for me. Suddenly I realized I'm a beneficiary of a system which is not merit-based, where the rules don't apply. I'm a big beneficiary of it. But is that the society I want to live in? So then I decided to immigrate to the United States. I have a peculiar habit of when I'm making decisions to make a spreadsheet and put down all the pros, all the cons, or which country to go to. I could go to Canada, I could go to the United States, I could go to Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and all the English-speaking world. And my credentials from National Hospital were so strong that I would have been very welcome, but there was only one country which stood out head and shoulders above any other country. And I thought if they will take me, it will be a great privilege. And I was granted the green card, and I am a citizen since 1976. I became citizen the day I was eligible. And it has been one of the greatest blessings of my life. I had two great blessings. This is my second best blessing. My first best blessing is marrying the lady I did. That was my best thing which happened to me. We are married for 49 years. She still puts up with me. I don't know why, but at least describe myself as a happy couple. But here then I went into private practice. First I went into faculty at Rush Medical Center in Chicago. I was there for 4.5 years. After that I moved to Pueblo. And the reason I moved to Pueblo was that there was a lot of tension at that time. I'm talking about 74, 75, as it is now. Racial tension in Chicago. I had two very young daughters who I adored, and I couldn't contemplate the idea of them going to school in that uncertain environment and being caught in the crossfire. So I said, let me find a city which is the most calm, where I can bring up my family. Who cares about my credentials, that this is not where I could go to any place, but going to Pueblo, people were shocked. It turned out that was another lucky break, not contemplated. Pueblo is a wonderful place. The people are very kind, very friendly. They have a smile on their face, which reinvigorates you every time you run into people. And I was practicing then by happenstance, not by design. I got into the health plan, creating a health plan, founding a health plan, because my fellow physician insisted that I do that. I didn't think we'll succeed, but somehow or the other, again, the luck shined on me, and we succeeded. And again, I got a lot of helping hand along the way. Ultimately, we became the fourth largest health plan in the country and a Fortune 100 or 200 company. And that is just in the short span of 10 years. After that, I got tired of running a big organization like that. And secondly, I loved my patients. When you're running a big company, you don't get the same satisfaction as you get when you are interacting with your patients who adores you, you adore them. It's a very, very happy occurrence, and I craved that. But at that time, to go back in practice was difficult because of the malpractice insurance and all that. And so I founded a health IT company to solve, because I noticed that the health plans were very behind in their technology. People had to stay on the phone for hours. I'm the one who invented the internet appointment. I invented the internet. You can see your claims, you can protest your claims, you can have your medical records, all that was. I had over 800 patents from the US Patent Office granted to me during this time. Then I suddenly, in practice, I was not in favor of cannabis, marijuana. My patient would come in and say, my neighbor is doing very well with his back pain with marijuana. I said, no, that's a dangerous drug, don't take it. Then in 2007, there was a long editorial in The Economist, and I have a great respect for The Economist Journal. They do their work, research their articles very well. And they said there are about 455 molecules, active molecules in marijuana. Then it caught my attention. Then I started doing further research. To date, it is effective in 83 conditions. But all those studies are what we call observational. They don't meet the standard of a rigorous study because it was illegal. So we have 455 molecules. We have 82 diseases that we know that they work. We don't know how they work, which molecule work, what are the side effects of those molecules, what is the combination of the molecules, what should be the dose of it, and how often they should be administered. So taking on this challenge at the ripe age of 81, I intend to live to be 150 with everybody's blessings, to complete this work. And for that purpose, I founded the Institute of Cannabis Research in CSU Pueblo. But they didn't want to do the human research despite my founding that, because they were afraid that the federal government will declare the CSU system as a rogue system. So I went to the legislature and got the legislation passed, setting up the Institute of Cannabis Research as a state-sponsored, state-controlled, and state-funded educational institution. So now we can do the research there that so far hasn't been done anywhere in the United States for the first time in a university setting. I'm very excited. Now, why Cortez? The thing is, in any research, the more people you have access to, you have more ability. I have a challenge of 455 molecules. 455 biologically active molecules. I'm going to need tens of thousands of patients, or not patients, but people who are willing to go through the trial to see what works in which person. That's number one. Number two, it also allows me to expand my current business, which is like 4 stores, and 2 of them are medical, 2 of them are recreational. Although, truth be told, I don't think there should be a distinction between medical and recreational, because people who take recreational are usually taking it because they have anxiety and they want to. It's the substitute for a martini. At a busy day afterwards, you come and you do it. It's much safer than a martini, but over a period of time, this distinction will disappear. And the more important thing is, you should have access to the largest number of population on which you can run the trials to be successful. The more patients you have, the more population you have at your beck and call, you can. Now, the question is raised here. I was reading the transcript in the last meeting, that there are too many marijuana stores. There may be, but I think where our studies have suggested that there is a place, not so much to provide marijuana, and that is why we chose the location we chose, to the local population, but marijuana to people who are passing through, going to Arizona, going to Utah, going to New Mexico. That's number one. Number two, if I'm wrong, if there is too many stores and there is no need of it, then my business will fail and I'll lose money. That is my risk, which I'm willing to take. And I need your help to help me in that process. I have always worked from the viewpoint of public interest. I was advisor to President George W. Bush, before that informal advisor to President Clinton. Then I'm very good friends of Nancy Pelosi. I have used this influence not to get anything for myself, but for something that I thought, the Medicare Part D was my creation. I persuaded President Bush to go after it. He was having great difficulty with his own party to have that. I think the senior deserved that. Similarly, the community health centers which service a very critical constituency, and that critical constituency is the poor people who are poor can have Medicaid. Those who are middle class or rich, they can have private insurance. But there's a group of people who are the backbone of this country, working poor. They don't have access to insurance and they can't afford insurance, and the community health centers have been doing a yeoman's work being that safety net. And in 2007, the Republicans are my friend, but sometimes they don't do everything that I can agree with, and similarly the Democrats. So they were going to cut the community health center location appropriation by half. I went to the president and said, this is very unfair. There are a lot of people who are benefiting from it, who cannot afford health insurance, who cannot afford health care. And those people are not covered by any program. This program is covering it. So I explained to him, and once he understood, you people may not know George W. Bush. He has a very kind heart. He's a great man. History will write very well of him. I'm a great fan of his. So I was saying, restore it to the where it was. And he said, Malik, I'm disappointed in you. And I said, why? He said, why are you not asking me to quadruple or increase it? Because it seems like a very good program. And he quadrupled the appropriation. He worked with the Congress. And then he passed an order, presidential order, in which he said every person in the United States should have an access to a community health center within 50 miles, that we should build enough community health center and staff them so that everybody who needs them can come there. Now, let me share this with you. I did not get a penny out of it because that was not the goal. The goal was to take care of the people who needed the help. Similarly, in 2011 again, and I think in my packet that I provided to Mr. Green, you will see a letter from Nancy Pelosi thanking me for meeting her. And what was the agenda? Community health center funding, because now Democrats are after it to cut it. So I went and lobbied and preserved that program. Similarly, there are other things. Now, I was in several other commissions, national commissions, which I was appointed to by Congress or by President. Commission on Afghanistan, what we should do in Afghanistan, what we should do in public diplomacy, that was another commission. The Commission for Performing Arts, Presidential Commission on Performing Arts. I was a member of that also. I was also, when President Bush term ended, I thought my life in the public arena is ended, but guess what? President Obama administration appointed me a member on the Health Reform Commission, and that was the one which came up with the Obamacare. Now, I know Obamacare has a mixed reception, but it's the best plan which was conceived. But the problem is, even the best plan implemented poorly. becomes a bad plan. And that is what happened to Obamacare, Affordability Act. So similarly, I am always concerned about my welfare, but this is a country which is a very noble country. The people care about each other far more than in any other country. We carry the world on our shoulders. If there is a flood anywhere, even those people who don't like us, we'll go and help them. If there's an earthquake, we'll go and help them, whether we like them or not. This is the God's own country. And the reason I came to this country was for these reasons, the noble work that United States as a country does, also because it was merit-based, unlike Pakistan or India, or for that matter, even in UK. If you work hard, you're good at what you do, you have a guaranteed success. When I was moving from Pakistan to United States, I was very wealthy because I had been very successful, but the State Bank of Pakistan had a rule that you could not take out more than $32. This is 71, if you're going out of the country. So everyone was circumventing that law by buying dollars in the black market. I could have come to this country with $1 million. But I'm coming to this new country for idealistic reason, and I didn't want to come to this country with dirty hands. I came with clean hands. It was a very difficult month that I had to endure. Then I found a very good job. This was in Chicago. So my point is, I knew, I had confidence in America and my fellow citizen that, as Churchill once said, you can trust Americans to do the right thing, but he also said they'll try everything else. But after they fail in everything else, then they will try do the right thing. So this has been a wonderful odyssey, and I ask for your help to allow me to expand my mission. And also, I made a lot of money, but I gave away most of that money to educational institution in the CSU Pueblo because it's a backward area. I funded the Hassan School of Business, which is now in the top 10% of the business schools in the entire world, internationally accredited. I have also given a lot of money to University of Colorado, to the local community college, and also to the arts, wherever I feel that there is some need. Because I'm not going to take it with me, and I don't want to burden my children to basically have wealth which prevents them from striving for their own and working and enjoying what I have enjoyed, striving and succeeding. So thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. I hope I haven't bored you too much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
I just had one question to Mike. Mike, we made a motion with 3 votes. Was this an issue that needed to be tabled? We're all right? Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda then is ordinance number, I'm sorry, what?
No.
I have a question. Would you go to the mic, please, and state your name and address?
Dwayne Cook, Block 1, Lot 10, Brandon's Gate. And I was wondering if I could have an opportunity to speak. I'm not sure I will be here in March when you reconvene.
Because it would be sworn testimony, it's not just speaking, okay? It would be like at the liquor hearing. No, I think it would be more productive if you could be here for...
My plans are not going to allow me to do that.
I don't think we can take your testimony tonight, sir.
How about my opinion?
It has to be testimony.
But he was able to speak.
Pardon?
He was able to speak?
He was just making an address and then...
Well, can I address the council then?
There's no point, I want to say this, there's no point open at this time for you to do it.
Mike, could he enter a written testimony that could be read at the next hearing?
If the council wants to accept written, they have to authorize it because it's not currently authorized, and I want to look at the rules and things. And that would be that something we discovered and we're looking at, so we did not authorize written for them. We did not authorize written for this particular 2 sets of hearings. We told people they needed to appear. So I'm being consistent by saying, you know, you'd have to authorize it or no, not at all.
Well, and how long does that delay the process then?
Pardon?
How long does that delay the process if it has to be
I
authorized?
don't think it delays the process at all. It may or may not impact the applicant. It may or may not cause appeal issues. It may or may not cause, I think definitely allowing this gentleman to speak on the issues that are going to be about, or the considerations rather, about whether or not to grant the license creates a problem. That's, you know, part of the testimony we need to consider.
He gave you some food for thought. I thought I might do the same since I won't be here in March, as they had conflicting interest as well.
The problem that we may be running into is, so we've already been dinged on this once.
Okay.
And this has been a 2-year process to get it from where it started with the original application to where we
Right.
are today.
Yes, I understand that.
And we're trying to walk a real narrow line here to be sure that this time everything is done strictly according to the book, so that once the decision is made, the decision stands.
What would the wise counsel's recourse be then?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What would the wise counsel's recourse be?
I'm not following.
How would you like me to speak,
Oh.
or how should I enter this so
Well,
it can be heard?
I think the way things stand right now is that in order for us to be able to take testimony relevant to this particular issue, it has to be made in person.
And if the person can't make it in
Well,
person?
and I do regret that.
Right.
I appreciate the fact
When will
that,
you be reconvening on this matter?
well, at this point, we're waiting to hear from them to find out what's going to work with their calendar. The idea is to do this as quickly as possible, and so if all the parties are free and available on the 10th of March, then that's when it will be. If not, it will be at that second.
And this is for the voice of the people, right?
Well, we have to follow the guidelines and the process here.
Yes, ma'am. But I just humbly ask to speak.
Mike, can he speak as a citizen during the last citizen participation? Or is that going to be an issue?
It's not going to really count as evidence.
Well, it doesn't have to. He just, do you understand that we cannot take
I
it?
understand that it's not evidence and it's just
It's just you stating an opinion as a citizen addressing the council. And that will be at the end of this council meeting this evening.
At the end of the council
Will that work, Mike?
I'm looking down at people that may have an objection to it. And I suppose one way to remedy would be is that we can provide you with a copy of what he says, and then you can address it at the hearing, if you feel you need to.
That sound fair?
I know.
You need to go to the mic. And the reason for that is just the recording doesn't pick up if you're not at the mic.
I do understand, thank you. This is Greg Whitehair speaking again on behalf of Newview. We are pro-democratic process. That said, we, like you, are committed to following the rules that have been set forth that we are working really hard to follow. One of the issues that comes up is who is allowed to testify about, frankly, anything. What I'm hearing is that this gentleman is willing to concede that his statement is not to be read as evidence or to be relied upon as a fact-finding sworn testimony. And if that's the case, I think everyone should be able to talk for a few minutes. So we would not object as long as it did not constitute material upon which the council made any considerations.
So you're not going to come back after the fact then and say, but, I mean, can I hold you to that?
Well,
I mean, that's where we are now on this.
I guess, folks, what I'm thinking is this would not be appropriate, and I would recommend against it, because that's the cleanest way, is we are not taking comments at this time about this license application, and to do anything that jeopardizes the process at the next hearing, I think is ill-advised. So I recommend that, and my apologies to the gentleman for having to continue the hearing, but I don't think it would be appropriate for you to speak at this time.
Fair enough. In a democracy, all voices should be heard, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm letting you know that I probably won't be here in March because of my business plans, and this fine man around here sees no problem with me speaking, so I
Sir,
can wait till the end of the meeting.
Sir, one of my concerns is, and this is perhaps, I've had problems understanding how extremely trained individuals who preside over complicated court proceedings and/or juries, when they're instructed to not consider things they've heard, don't consider things they've heard, okay? We are in a position where we are trying to be extremely fair and to run an extremely fair, complicated hearing process that has a lot at stake, and it's, I understand your situation, but at this particular point in time, I do not have a mechanism for allowing you to speak to the granting or not granting
It is
of
the
license.
council's decision in the end, is it not?
And I am just giving you the reasons why they may say no.
Okay.
Okay? It's not my decision, but it's going to be my
Right.
recommendation.
You're just to advise the board, right?
I'm advising them not to let you speak to that topic because of what is at stake regarding a fair hearing to these folks.
I will be extremely fair.
Sir, it's up to council, but my recommendation is you not be allowed to speak on that topic.
Council?
Do we need a motion on this, Mike?
That would probably be the cleanest way.
Okay. Would council like to discuss? Or is somebody ready to make a motion?
Why are you both looking at me?
Oh, I'm just looking in this direction because.
You know,
the people
we've
that
been
can
a
vote are
council
inside.
that has public comment periods, 2 of them per meeting. You know, it puts us in a position now where we're becoming more legal in our decision-making about what people can and can't say is frustrating to me. I appreciate hearing from people in this community, and you know, I don't know all the legalities of it. I am not a lawyer. I sit on this council as a voice for the people, and when we stifle that, I have a problem with it. Now, if we can get in legal trouble for that, then I'm sorry. I don't want to be in any more legal trouble with what's been going on. But, you know, we've never, this is uncharted water. We're swimming upstream here with some of these decisions we're having to make, and it's, quite honestly, it's incredibly frustrating because this place is for exactly what this gentleman would like to do, much in the same way Dr. Hassan spoke, and I appreciated hearing from him. I want to hear from everyone, and if legally we are bound to not let people have a say, I mean, then what's the point? What's the point of a council? So I don't know. That being said, I guess I've just felt like venting a little bit, but you know, I don't know where we're at. We've always allowed people to speak. I don't know why it's different now. So.
May I make one comment? This is Mr. White here again.
Yeah.
there is a separate convening that occurs when you are making what's considered a quasi-judicial fact-finding. And so while the council should be an open forum, and I've been impressed, I've watched a number of your meetings from afar, you're doing that. But when you are making decisions that affect significant business interests and you have chosen to pursue the quasi-judicial hearing protocol, you actually are sitting as judges.
Right.
And no more than Judge Plew would invite an open conversation about how one or another citizens enjoyed the jury trial, so too you get to just stay focused in what is, in essence, a robed conversation. I believe Mr. Green is attempting to share, and pardon us lawyers for being lawyerly about it, but when you sit essentially as judges, the job is, here's the scope of the evidence, here's the order of proceedings, here's who can speak, here's the topics they can speak on, and here's who can cross-examine them.
Right.
And in that context, the idea is there would be a full setting, your staff would have already spoken to you about what you really were listening for in any other testimony, et cetera. So I don't mean to take Mr. Green's spot only to support, I think, the way he's approaching it, which is to say, think of yourself 3 robed judges tonight, and how would you proceed with your quasi-judicial trial?
Right. Yeah, and I understand. I've been on council for a while, and I understand the quasi-judicial hearing process. But unfortunately, the circumstances tonight don't lend themselves to being really fair and impartial, not only to this gentleman, but to you as well and your client, right? Because of unfortunate circumstances, you were presented with a council that is supposed to be 7, but we've been down to 6 now. We're frail anyway, and now we're 3 people trying to make these decisions. And I do understand the process, and I understand the ramifications from hearing things in a quasi-judicial manner that could influence or affect. That being said, as a council member, we often hear things and hear testimony to a certain extent because people want this forum to be able to express themselves. And I understand that if legally that puts us in a twist, I don't want to do that, and I apologize.
And please, I hope I wasn't overstepping my bounds. I really wanted to just share. I think it's a frustrating 2 hats that you wear.
Yeah. And
I would like to support you, however that is. As I said, we believe in democracy. We believe in people getting to speak out. And so we'll defer to how you proceed, but I think Mr. Green has raised a point. If it comes in, it's hard to say, unring the bell.
Right.
Well, you can't unring the bell.
Thank you.
Just a minute. Sir, do you have somebody else in your family that will be in town at one of those, and you'll have to check the city council website? Pardon? Just you?
This is concerning my...
This
is Kayleen Schooley again, and we came here as a group, as an immediate community residents.
Just a minute, please. You don't need her address again. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, if he's not able to be here, can I get what he has to say to bring it for him? Because there's several of us here as a community over this subject.
Are you sure you'll be in agreement with what he has to say?
I'm not really sure. I have to go over it.
You know, what you
But we're here
guys
as a community.
decide to do, I don't have any control over that.
Okay.
I don't think council has any control over that.
I mean, I don't know the rules and regulations.
Well,
This is the first city council meeting I've ever been to, so.
I don't have the ability to be able to follow citizens around and say, you can't do this or you can't do that. If he's willing
Well, I'm
to share
talking
and you're willing
legal-wise to Mr. Green.
to
Is
testify,
there any type of legal ramifications for that? There, like I said, there's several of us here that live right there.
And
directly.
I think it's very important.
So we're here as a group, you know.
I think you've made it even more so important that if you live right there, you need to be here
That-
because these people need to be able to ask you questions about your concerns and make sure that everything is fairly stated.
right.
This talks about cross-examination, it's not just public comment. It's you're becoming a witness, you're under oath. It's like in a courtroom, like Mr. Whitehair says. And so you need to be available for them to ask you questions. You need to be available for staff to
Right.
ask you
Right,
questions.
for everybody.
And for council to ask you questions. And so that's why the presence is so important.
I think her question, though, Mike, is, can she legally submit his testimony?
And that is what I'm saying. He would not be here to be cross-examined, and he would not be subject to cross-examination or questions from you or from staff or from the applicant. And so I have some concerns that allowing people to do hearsay comments, it's kind of like going to court. They don't allow hearsay, except under some very extreme circumstances. And so I'm advising against it, and I understand this is not what feels comfortable. But you are in a more restrictive environment in a quasi-judicial hearing.
Does that answer your question?
Somewhat, but are you going to postpone the next meeting so this gentleman can talk?
I doubt very seriously
You
that.
postponed this one for these people.
I doubt, well.
And they're not from
We're
this-
postponing this meeting because we don't have a quorum at this point.
I'm through, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
We're moving on to the next ordinance, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
moving on. The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 1273, Series 2020. It's the final reading regarding the use of an electric motor vehicle charging station for parking a motor vehicle. Mike?
This ordinance came about because when you put an electric charging station in, it's sort of important to have it available to the public with the electric cars and charging. It seems to be part of the grant process that it needs to be available. The state, in some ways, has already put some legislation in about who can park and how long they can park in charging stations. So what we did was to make it, this sounds peculiar, but to make it more convenient and easier on our citizens, we're putting this in same statute into municipal court so that they have easier and quicker access to things. And so staff is recommending that we pass this ordinance, or you pass this ordinance rather, for a variety of reasons. One is it's going to protect the parking stations and their availability for electric cars. The other is it's going to make enforcement easier for everybody.
All right, this is the second reading. Are there any questions, council, or any comments?
I know it's sometimes difficult, there's those parking spaces that say for smaller compact vehicles and things like that. If I were to park in that without a smaller compact vehicle, there's no legal ramifications for anything like that?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
So I can't be ticketed for that?
No.
But you're saying that people can be ticketed for parking in a charging station? Is this somehow different? Like,
Yes.
how do we adjust parking fines in places that are more or less public parking spaces?
The electric vehicle charging stations are a different kind of a parking space because they have a different function. They're not a place to store your car, they're a place for people to get electric charges for their cars, and for the charges to be subsidized through the grants and things like that in the station. And so they have to be available. I think if I remember correctly, this ordinance says from, is it 11 at night to 5 in the morning or sometime, anybody can park in the spot. They're trying to protect access to what the state is determining is becoming a vital concern. And so the state statute is what we're just making a city code provision. So if you don't, and I understand if you don't want to do this, okay, then what will happen is the city police will be writing people into county court instead of municipal court.
Yeah, I didn't say that, I just needed
No.
clarification
Yeah,
as
and
to,
I'm sorry,
because I know that those types of things have come up with smaller parking spots. It's like, well, what can you really do about it? And if this just becomes a headache for our law enforcement, I would like to head that one off before it becomes that, where, you know, we're chasing that kind of thing because it's hard to enforce, and I don't want that to happen.
I guess the only person who can talk about how hard it is to enforce is sitting in the next to the back row back there, the chief. And I say, I've looked at this as probably going to be mainly a complaint-only type thing. I don't know that there'll be somebody chalking your tire and coming back in 4 hours and seeing. Maybe there will, maybe there
Well,
won't.
they chalk your tires on Main Street.
I understand, and
So-
maybe they will be here. Like I say, these are some things that are gonna, there's more than one charging station will be affected by this. So there's, you know, we'll have to see how it works.
Do other towns have similar ordinances to this?
I haven't checked to see because this is a brand-new state statute, and because we're a charter city, that's why I thought we should make it one of our rules and regulations so we could enforce it through our court and our system.
Yeah, well, the state's always so gracious in giving us guidance on things. This would be a cakewalk.
Well, the truth is with this too, though, is that there was a financial investment in getting that charging station there.
No, I agree.
And
I just,
so,
you know,
yeah,
if it's, I just
yeah.
don't want it to be a headache, so.
Right. And it's just one, I mean, it's just two slots, so.
Yeah, I think it's important to reserve these spots for electric charging vehicles. Sometimes people depend on these charging stations for their journey. I had some people come by when I was inspecting the station, and they had a Tesla, and they needed a charge because they were going from Durango to Dead Horse State Park, and they needed to charge up their vehicle, and luckily there was no one parked there illegally or whatever, and they were able to charge their vehicle and continue their journey. But so it'd be good that we could reserve these spots legally for these electric vehicles.
Any other questions or comments?
I have none. Thanks,
Okay.
Mike.
May I have a motion, please?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion we approve on final reading ordinance number 1273, Series 2020. Regarding,
I'm sorry, did we open this up for public comment? No. It's second reading in
Sorry
public.
about that.
No, I'm just wanting to make sure.
I was so focused on the quasi-judicial part of
Yes,
the
ma'am.
public hearing. All right. In that case, I will open this up to citizen comment. Please state your name and your address, or state your name again.
Elizabeth Berger, Road 29. My question is, if you didn't feel comfortable to make a decision as a council for the previous ordinance, do you feel comfortable to make a decision now? Or do you prefer to postpone this one too?
This is a second reading on this. We've already voted. Ordinances have two readings, and we've already voted once. And we do have a quorum for this. Sue is, I don't think, is recusing herself on this vote.
Oh, and she was recusing herself
Yes,
on the other one?
yes.
Which would
have reduced us to 3, which is less than a quorum.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
That's fine.
Thank you.
You're keeping us honest. All right. Would anybody else like to make comment? All right, I'm closing the public hearing. Now may I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion we approve on final reading ordinance number 1273, Series 2020, regarding the use of an electric motor vehicle charging station for parking a motor vehicle.
Second.
Levy,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Betts. Sheik.
Aye. We have no unfinished business. Under new business, the first item is the Airport Taxiway Shoulder Project Phase 2 bid award. Russ?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council.
Evening, Russ.
Morning.
So much for requesting 7A for a quick exit tonight. Didn't quite pan out like it usually does. I have probably the most convoluted memo that I've ever put together for you folks, and since I submitted this Thursday to Linda, there's been a change from the FAA, but it's a good change. So I'll cover that when we get there. To give us a little background, this is a Phase 2 project for a taxiway shoulder project that was begun in 2013. It completed approximately 60% of the shoulders for the parallel taxiway. And then, of course, the funding shortfall came upon us, and we had to shut it down. And here we are today. The FAA has not had the funding in the last 7 years to put this thing together and complete it. So we tried to do this last summer. We had a bid opening in July, and the bids were too high for the available funding. The FAA tabled it until this January, when we went out to bid again, they knowing that we had an additional $600,000 coming on board because of our 2018 employments. So they're hoping that that would make the project whole with the original $1.3 million that we had originally from last summer. And this is where the good news comes in. We were supposed to pay back one of 3 airports that we borrowed from to cobble together the 1.3, pay back $150,000. This was the first of 3 payments. The next one was next year, and then 2 years hence, the third and final payment. The FAA suggested a couple of weeks ago that they postpone that payment in order to bring us to the full $600,000 allotment. That still gave us a $110,000 or so shortfall. They are borrowing an additional $105,000, the extra 5 plus made up by state and local grant match, to make the project whole. So we would make our first payment back next year, our second payment back next year, and then the $105,000 that we borrowed for supplemental funding this year, next year, out of the $600,000 that we earned in 2019. The 2018 $600,000 is what we're working off of now. Is that all clear? Okay. Then yesterday they called me with the good news. They're no longer going to require the $150,000 payback for this year. It is washed. So next year, on my memo toward the end, I talked about the remaining fiscal year funding for use next year. It was $194 and change. Now that's going to be $344,000 and change because we no longer have to pay back 1, 2, and 3 loan payments, just the 2. So that's the good news. Back to the bid opening. We had that bid opening on February 10th. We got 3 bids. One of them was $25,619.95 below the engineer's estimate, and they are the #1 bid. That's Reams Construction out of Matarita. Then Williams Construction was the second low bidder at $2+ million, and Old Castle, which is Four Corners Materials, they came in at nearly $2.3 million. So Reams is the apparent low bidder. Everything was run over by the FAA engineer and our engineer that we hire as a consultant, and everything was in order on the bid. There were no mistakes, no changes. Everything that was supposed to be there was there, so everything was good there. So that leaves us with having to account for our match increase because of the increased funding. We budgeted for the $450 because we were going to pay back $150. Now we've got the $600 and the additional $105 that we have to match. So all that said, we have added requests for local and state funding, and the state has already come on board and said they're going to match. They're going to do the extra funding. That's already in process. They're going to be sending us the paperwork for your signature in a couple of weeks or days. So we need an additional $3,947 for the first portion of this additional funding, and then with the 110 extra, the 105 extra, we need to match that with 5,524, which will be split in two. State taking half, we take half for 2,762. Now, I made a math mistake. When you add that top figure, the 3947, and the bottom figure, 2762, it does not add up to 6705. It needs to be 6710. And the state and the feds always round in their favor. So any additional pennies on either side of a dollar always roll to our match. So we need 6,710. So the recommendation at the bottom of the page, number 2, would also have to be changed to 6,710. So I hope that is clearer than mud. Are there any questions?
And you have the money in the budget to be able to do that,
Yes, we do.
and it's a really great return on the investment. It's a good return on investment.
Yeah, we're good.
So both the 2020 and the 2021 transfer returns, is that right, or just one of those?
Right, that first transfer return, the 2020
I
transfer
see.
return.
I got it.
Is washed.
Yeah.
It's gone. So we will be making our usual 2021 transfer return and then the additional 105 next year. So we'll still have nearly $350,000. Well, we'll have more than that because that's the federal funding.
Right.
We have to match that. So we'll have project money at 95% Fed, 5% state and local. We'll have somewhere in the vicinity of 363 or something like that.
Okay.
For a project next year, which more than likely will be a master plan. We're way overdue on that, but we haven't been able to chip away at our last project list on our former master plan. So they have forgiven it and postponed it, knowing that they haven't had the funding, we haven't had the funding to do any of the projects as we moved along the timeline. So they've mothballed the requirement for the master plan, but they'd like to get it going next year.
Okay.
Okay, good deal.
Thanks, Russ.
Any other questions, Council?
I have none.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to award the contract for construction of taxiway shoulders and drainage remediation to Reams Construction of Natarita, Colorado, for, wait a second.
It's $1,650,140.95.
That's different than what we have on our paper, though. The 6,710 that's been changed.
Which area are you looking at?
That's the match.
If you go to the first page on the bid
Oh,
tab,
sorry.
under Reams Construction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for, Natarita, Colorado for $1,650,140.95.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Levy,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Betts, Sheik.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Russ.
I need the other, number 2 and 3.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to do it all in one fell swoop, but I need number 2 and 3, the additional funding approval and the mayor's signature on the grant application.
Oh, okay, on page 93. It's on page 93.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Can we combine those two motions, or do we have to do them each separately?
No, we
now
have
that
to
we
do them
started?
separate now because we
Okay.
already did the first one. Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to approve additional local funding for $6,710.
Yeah.
I second it.
Keel,
Aye.
Betts, Levy,
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. And the third one?
And I also make a motion to have you, the mayor, sign an FAA grant application.
Second.
Levy,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Betts, Sheik.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
It was too clear. I wanted to muddy it up a little bit.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is Resolution Number 3, Series 2020, which is supporting the 2020 census. John?
Council, in a couple of weeks, the U.S. government is required to do a census of the population. This is extremely important for this area to make sure that everybody gets counted so that we bring those tax dollars back, makes us eligible for grants. Federal transportation dollars, there's just a plethora of funding that we get for these things. For the schools and everybody else. So we'd like to encourage the citizens to participate and ask council to pass this resolution in support of asking people to participate and get those census numbers in for us.
Doesn't that add up to like $2,300 per citizen? Yeah, it's pretty big. A lot of money.
I'd just like to say, Rachel Medina, who's in the audience, and I both are serving on the Montezuma County Complete Count Committee, and that committee's been working for almost a year now. And as part of the effort, in order to be able to draw citizen attention, we've come up with a number of things to distribute out in the community, and particularly in the schools, and just wanted to, each council member has gotten a little goodie bag. We try to purchase things that would actually have some use in the community instead of spending money on bumper stickers or things that would just be throwaways. We actually did try to purchase things that would have value, and so every elementary student in Montezuma County is getting a water bottle. They are also getting a really cute little pen. New parents, and the hospital is partnering with us on this, new parents are being given a little welcome gift for their new baby, which includes some baby toiletries, a little hat, washcloths, a blanket, and then a little onesie that says "Count me in," because we want parents to know that even though their baby is brand new, that when they do their census, they need to count that new baby. So we did those, and actually we dropped these off at the hospitals. And they've been very willing to work with us. Middle school students are getting plastic binders. Folios, excuse me. The health department that does a lot of home visits to seniors who are considered a hard-to-count group. The health department said that an item that a lot of seniors could use would be the pillboxes, and so we have MontezumaCounts.com, and they will be distributing those when they go to visit some of the seniors. And, oops, sorry, Mike. And the WIC program, which works with it's a food program for mothers with young children. We ordered T-shirts, and some of these will also go to that program as well. And then in the local grocery stores in Dolores and Mancos are census cloth reusable grocery bags. And again, the idea was to purchase things that would have some sustainable value. We have Count Me In USA, and anybody that would like to take one of these, I'll put them up here on the desk. Please feel free to stop by and pick one up. And there will be plastic, which you can't read very well backwards, but these are little clingies for participating agencies to put on their windows that just say that we are proud supporters of Census 2020. So share, you guys need to be ambassadors and share this information with people that you know in the community. And we'll also be going to the bridge and the food kitchens and senior services and veteran services to actually take tablets on site to help those folks register, so we can be sure that as many of our Montezuma County residents as possible get counted. So,
good job.
All right. The resolution is resolution number 3. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America requires U.S. Census Bureau to conduct a count of the population and provide an opportunity for local governments to help shape the foundation of our society. And whereas the City of Cortez government is committed to working with the entire community to ensure that every resident is counted in the upcoming 2020 census, and whereas in 2010, Cortez had a census self-response rate of 76%, but in 2020, officials would really like to reach a goal of 90%. So here's hoping on that. Whereas the census brings $675 billion in federal funds to communities across the country for programs that support highways, hospitals, affordable housing, community development, emergency preparation and response, nutrition for women, infants, and children, elder care facilities, school, child daycare, and more. And whereas specifically Colorado receives over $13 billion or $2,300 per capita annually for the federal assistance programs because of census-derived data. And whereas census data determines the number of seats each state will have in the U.S. House of Representatives in addition to the redistricting of state legislators, county commissions, school boards, and voting districts. And whereas accurate census information is critical to planning for future growth, development, and social needs of the City of Cortez, Colorado, whereas those who work for the Census Bureau must take a lifetime oath to protect confidentiality and ensure that data identifying respondents of their households must not be released or shared. And whereas the 2020 census will feature new technology that will allow residents to answer census questions online in addition to by phone or paper. And whereas shortly, a united voice from business, government, educators, nonprofits, faith leaders, media, and others will work to market the 2020 census across our entire community to raise overall awareness and to increase participation among all populations. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the members of the Cortez City Council, do hereby support the goals of the 2020 census and will participate in outreach and information sharing to encourage increased participation in order to achieve an accurate and complete count and work to raise awareness about the programs and services made possible by the census. Be it further resolved that we, the members of the Cortez City Council, do hereby set the census self-response goal of 90% or higher for the 2020 census. May I have a motion?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion we approve resolution number 3, series 2020, supporting the 2020 census.
Second.
Keel.
Aye.
Betts.
Aye.
Levy.
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. Cortez Historic Preservation Board member reappointment. Neva.
All right, good evening. I am one of the city staff support for the Historic Preservation Board, and I'm here to petition for the reappointment of Mitchell Toms and Linda Toll to the Historic Preservation Board. They are both long-term members. Linda Toll is almost solely responsible for getting tens of thousands of dollars of grant money for the board to do surveying of historic properties around town. And she's up for a 3-year reappointment in March. Mitchell Toms is Chamber of Commerce representative to the Historic Preservation Board, and his term is ending this month, and he's up for another 3-year term. So I've included the letters of support for the members, and that's really all I have. This can be the shortest presentation tonight.
Well, considering that it's late, how nice, huh? Council, are there any questions or comments?
I have
No questions.
All right, may I have a motion?
I make a motion that we consider approving the reappointment of Mitchell Toms and Linda Tao to the Cortez Historical Preservation Board for another term.
I second that.
Keel.
Aye.
Betts.
Aye.
Levy.
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. John, the Cortez Public Arts Committee reappointment.
Brenda Van Curing is currently fulfilling a a former resignation, so I'm asking for a reappointment of Brenda Van Kuren to the Public Arts Committee. And I would also like to note that currently, I believe there's supposed to be 7 members on the Public Arts Committee. I've recently had 2 resignations, so Brenda is needed to make a quorum. And she's also been appointed chair.
You mean this body isn't the only one that has quorum issues?
Yes.
Council, are there any questions?
I have none.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to approve the reappointment of Brenda Van Kuren for another term on the Cortez Public Arts Committee.
Second.
Keel.
Aye.
Levy.
Aye.
Betts.
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. All right, we have no draft resolutions or ordinances, no other items of business at this time. Is there any citizen that would like to address council? Please state your name and your address.
Justin Vasterling, 2527 Trinity Avenue. I didn't think I'd see another city council meeting as intense as the land use code thing. This was one. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. Thank you for being up there. Thank you for taking the heat and facing down some pretty gnarly things. And that's it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
It's nice to have a thanks. Is there anybody else that would like to address council? Okay. All right. We have no city attorney's report. City manager.
I have nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Okay. Has anybody attended a meeting?
I have, Your Honor.
All morning, right?
Yes, this morning, just a few hours ago, I was at the Cortez Cultural Center meeting. As usual, it's very interesting, and Holly brought some Mardi Gras sweetbread, no babies inside, little plastic babies. Anyways, back to business. We discussed some of the past programs, the gallery schedule, some assembly required. There's 25 people in attendance. On February 19th, Marty McKean gave his talk about veterinary experiences, and 15 people showed up to that. And upcoming tomorrow on February 26th, there will be a QPR training, which is suicide prevention training, which is very important in our society and in our country and our culture. So that's tomorrow, folks.
Where is that?
Yeah.
Where?
The Cultural Center. Right. 5 p.m.
There's a Facebook post on it, and then email it last week just came out, but it is tomorrow. It's a free training on suicide prevention.
Yeah. I've actually taken that training. It doesn't. It's not difficult, and it's easy to remember, and it's kind of one of those things where you never know when you may have an opportunity to be able to use it. So.
Okay, and I also attended the Parks, Rec, and Forestry Advisory Board meeting on Friday, February 21st, and that was a very interesting get-together then, too. Several members of the city council candidates were in attendance. We discussed many things, the South Neighborhood Park project status and the park naming recommendation. We discussed the Veterans Park status report. We talked about establishing a tree commission, which is very important in our community because we have so many trees, and we are a tree property arbor.
Yeah, we're
tree city. Tree city.
USA.
That's it. What I'm trying to say. So we have obligation to take care of our trees. We discussed the trees at the Calkins property. They need to be maintained. They need to be watered and taken care of. They're a valuable asset, and if they don't become not taken care of, they become a liability and have to be taken care of. So that's one of the things we discussed. We talked about the Arbor Day celebration coming up soon, and it was a very good meeting. Thank you all for coming.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. You've been, okay. I went to a COG meeting on February the 13th. Probably one of the most interesting things on that agenda was that there is a group called the Arcadian Infracom Broadband Development. It's an organization that is actually being funded by Amazon and Google, and their purpose is to get in long-haul fiber. They're anticipating that this will be built out by 2020. It will be a route from Phoenix to Denver, Denver to Salt Lake City, Salt Lake City to Phoenix. And right now it's an open access model. It's designed to increase the bandwidth, size of the conduits, so that we're kind of planning ahead. The Ute tribe, they've actually apparently have approached the Ute tribe and have offered to give them an access point if the tribe can get to if they can lay the fiber for the 35 miles to get there, they will provide them with an access point. So it's a really wonderful opportunity for our area, and as Rick knows, because he's worked on fiber for a long time, anytime you can get some additional fiber in the ground, why, that's a great thing. One of the things that the COG is doing is sponsoring a series of meetings, of educational meetings for board members on a variety of different subjects, and there were presentations by the Homes Fund at the last meeting, which was interesting. The COG did serve as our grant writer for DOLA funding to help fund the things that I showed you that were purchased for the census here in this community, and have been a partner in helping us get those things ordered and doing research on them. So their assistance was very, very helpful. And that's all I have on that. I have gotten 2 additional letters, one from Jason Tice, who is out of Durango, he's the musician, and from Louis Martinez here in Cortez, both of them supporting the proposal to build a band shell in Cortez, and expressing their willingness to help raise the funds. So I think we've got a project that's getting some legs here. Does anybody else have anything else that they wish to share? No. All right, in that case,